Because, when you don't have money, you don't get a lot of alone time.
For the last time, Miss Mitski is not private. No. Though I do think people tend to get confused because she does not pander to the general expectations of what success looks like in the music industry.
How have things changed since Puberty 2 and the anticipation for this record for you?
I can afford to take a taxi now if I need to. In my mind, music is not the music business. I wouldn't write a love song to the music business.
No, I don't think many people would.
But I just love the art of music. And it's been throughout my life, I haven't had friends or I haven't felt close to any community, but I've always had music, So if you don't need music like I need music, it probably just means you're fulfilled in other areas of your life.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kate. I make music and I also talk about things that I love. And recently I fell down the rabbit hole that is Miss Mitski, which is really funny because I actually saw her open for Lorde on her Melodrama tour in 2018. I hadn't really connected to the music at that point, but for some reason, now that I'm in my early 20s, learning more about the cold, hard truth of the world, it's hitting a lot more. Hence this excuse to watch way too many interviews and just read way too much about a person that I do not know. But anyway, while I was doing this wormhole investigation, I came across the common accusation that Mitski is labeled as private or doesn't like to share or has a really intense love of privacy, which first of all, how dare she? But from what I've seen, and not only in the vulnerability that she shares in her music, but also in her interviews, I absolutely could not disagree more.
When I play a show, I think I finally become myself. And my regular day, everyday Mitski is just not quite there.
I think it's really telling that in one of the interviews, Mitski says she would hope that her fans wouldn't meet her because they would be disappointed. I think she said something of the likes that she just likes to garden and hang at home and, be a person.
After this, with all due respect, I'm going to go to my Airbnb and just stare at a wall. Sometimes I think the true purpose of my working hard to make money is just so I can finally be left alone.
And yeah, that could be wrapped up into the whole celebrities, they're just like us. But I think there's a lot more to unpack. We're just not listening. I thought that if I had worked really hard at this, then eventually I get to the point where I can just spend all my time making music. But I found that the more that I do this, the less time I get to spend on it. Around 10% of the time. Less than that, I'm making music and or playing music. For some reason, I had this fantasy in my mind that, well, if I work really hard at this, then I'll eventually get to make music the way I want to all of the time. I'm finding that's not the case. Wow. As someone who is a musician and, like everyone else has had visions of grandiosity at some point in my time, this could not have hit harder. I think the more that I actually spend time within the scene or the music industry, I'm just shocked by how much the expectations on the outside of what it looks like, the reality of being a working artist, I couldn't be more shocked of how different those two things are. A lot of people don't know, but even when you're going on tour, you're likely losing money. Even if you're selling out shows, even if you're doing all the right things, even if you have several 100,000 listeners on Spotify or whatever, it is so hard to make a sustainable living off of music alone. And that is why we see so many musicians use the model of find their foothold in their audience and then expand to different industries, whether that is the occasional brand deal or a perfume or a book. Because spoiler alert, it is downright really difficult. It's really difficult. I've made so many TikToks on this subject, but I think a good figure that I always love to repeat, that, you know, if you want to make a quote unquote barely like living wage, you would have to, and this is assuming you earn 100% of the royalties, which is very rare at a certain level, you would have to have 1 million listeners, 1 million streams every single month. And that is just bare bones living. Yeah. Again, not that, you know, people have to be entitled to make a certain amount, but it is just the disproportionate gap of value that I think music and art provides in relation to what you are getting out of it as the artist. I've recently fallen in love with the song My Body's Made of Crushed Little Stars, or I feel like I'm getting the adjective order wrong. Let's see. No, My Body's Made of Crushed Little Stars. I'm a fan, okay? Another hard thing is as an artist or creative or musician or whatever, we only picture the upsides because it is so hard to reach a level where we would have access to knowing about what that life is actually like, that you just do not think of all the hard stuff. But I think Mitski really sums it up with, it's hard to have a real job as a musician when there's no definite schedule. There's no person telling you exactly what you should do. Is the fragmented lifestyle worth it? Of course, this is my skill. Everyone gets the thing that they're supposed to do. This is my thing. And that's true. I mean, no one is forcing anyone to have a job that, because it is so coveted, often comes, unfortunately, with really challenging working conditions, to put it lightly. Going on tour, not making money on tour, not making money from anything. It becomes a question of, you have all this external perceived success without the backing behind it. It seems very confusing and very isolating and just overall unsustainable. Mitski says, I don't think I'll be successful this year because what I see as success has nothing to do with the material shit. I want freedom, the freedom to do as I please and be left alone. Finally. Wow. And I think at some level, you know, maybe some people, I mean, sure, I think a lot of people probably get into music because they want fame or clout or whatever, but I think the majority of musicians just love it, and they want to maximize as much time as they can to do the thing. But it's ironic in that the narrative that if you work hard enough, you'll eventually get to do that. That's not necessarily the case. And I think Mitski is being incredibly honest and providing that context for artists who just do not have a reference point of what the journey looks like. There's a lot of rhetoric of, you know, you just have to work harder as an artist. You just got to go. Yeah. I think artists personally are some of the most scrappy people. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's worth considering, like, what if that pot at the end of the rainbow isn't really what you want, or isn't really what's going to service your art. The battle between consumerism versus art is nothing new. And when it comes to bootstrapping the music industry or any industry, a lot of Mitski songs come back to or ideas, thoughts, etc. There's a lot of theme about being a product, being consumed, right? And something she said was, the US is extremely consumerist, so I think the ways you are allowed to be different are driven by that. You can be different, but only if you are still consuming. Just the idea of having to siphon off certain sections of your creativity or perspective to see which is the most beneficial to make money reminds me a lot of the Picasso painting with the guitarist. I'll put it up, but yeah, it's nothing new, but it does beg the question, is separating your art and what you do for money just ultimately better for your art? I don't know. I think for different people, it's different things. But I do wish, as I've talked about many times, I do wish there was less of a stigma to have a day job and be proud of it and be proud about treading that balance, because it's so difficult to live sustainably as a full-time musician forever. That's very, very hard. I think there are some people who do that, but I hope that more of a creative middle class will eventually emerge, but I don't know how soon that's going to be. And on that note, one of my favorite things to do when I'm looking up an artist I admire, I don't know if this is weird, but I really like to look at what day jobs they currently do or what they've done in the past, because it makes me feel seen as a working artist. And it's nice to know that these people who, you know, it's very easy to put them on a pedestal because you respect what they make so much, but they are still finding ways to make this beautiful art while sustaining themselves, which isn't easy, but it's just comforting to know that people do it. It's possible. I couldn't find a whole lot on what Mitski has done in the past, but a couple of quotes that I dug up was, when it was 3 hours, this was relating to how much sleep she was getting. I was waiting tables all day for 12 hours, and then I would do whatever music thing I could fit in after that. I think that's the reality for many artists, and it's not a picnic. But oh man, can you imagine if you got served some nice rolls from Mitski? Another one, I'm a freelancer, so I enjoyed this one, but she said, I'm still very broke, but I do a lot of freelance stuff using the musical training I had. For example, this Christmas, I'm going to do a lot of caroling in rich people's houses in Westchester. Incredible. You got to do what you got to do. I think Mitski is an especially important voice in a time where I feel like the parasocial relationship as it relates to pop stars is starting to become more dismantled. We see Doja Cat kind of rejecting this fourth wall pretty intensely. We see this huge outrage when a celebrity or creative we love does something publicly that we don't agree with. And I think Mitski is a great service to showcasing, like, hey, I might have a bigger stage now. I might have some critically acclaimed masterpieces under my belt, but that doesn't mean that I'm still struggling with the same existential fears as every other human. And honestly, it seems like financial from time to time, which makes sense. I mean, like, when you're scaling your stage, your production, everything else, all those things cost money. And as a musician, you're going to have to front it because even if you have a deal, it's just a glorified loan. So, yeah, we're all human. The final quote that I found that I thought was so sweet was, lately, I've found that I just want to be happy. You get a little older and you just get tired. So maybe when I was younger, I chased that, and sometimes I would do it for the song. Now, I just don't have the time or energy. Honestly, if I could give all of this away for happiness, I would. I would rather be boring and happy than be fucked up and apparently a good artist. I think that puts a lot of really important things into perspective. And I think as smaller artists, it's on us to appreciate the freedom that we do have, because that is so easy to take for granted. I can put out whatever kind of music I want, and because currently I have plenty of day jobs alongside my artist project, that gives me so much leverage to service the art in ways I want to. And that has nothing to do with the external response that happens after you release a song. And it doesn't have to. making the thing is the enjoyment in itself. And I think I really appreciate Mitski being so honest about what the music business can actually be, at least in her experience, so that I can appreciate my unique place without having to lust over this thing that I'm conflating in my mind that might not actually even exist, you know? We all have this vision of a pop star and what it means to be a pop star, or not even a pop star, just a successful musician, and what that lifestyle would look like. And I think more often than not, that is a huge distortion, not actually reality. But anyway, yeah, I hope this wasn't too depressing. I mostly just really like Mitski and the music, and I read a lot of interviews and stuff from people I admire, so I figure I should turn it into something instead of just tucking it away in the brain. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I appreciate you, and yeah, bye-bye.